Hello, you guys. So today we have something pretty special prepared. We're trying out a completely new format to help some of our HR leaders, entrepreneurs, owners, or those that are in general hiring. Because very often there are quite a few members of leadership within a company, sometimes hiring for the very first time, posting on LinkedIn, and often struggling to find good quality candidates. So we decided to try out and launch a few of these called Roast My Job Description for those leaders out there that are posting potentially on LinkedIn, but for some reason they're getting one of two things. Either one, they're getting not enough quality candidates, or two, they're getting a lot of candidates, but it's just not the right quality, or they're not matching the requirements. Something is not clicking. So if you are somebody who is hiring on occasion or potentially doing it all the time, there are some best practices that you can integrate into your actual LinkedIn posting to help you get more candidates, but also more quality candidates. Now, I do this quite regularly with our clients, with our employers that we hire for, where we look at the requirements of their role and what might be missing. Now, we personally have this beautiful template that we normally follow, and we like to follow this for all of our clients, where we have A/B tested so many different postings and we know what converts best. But today, we're going to look at some examples of job descriptions and help you guys get some insight on what you can do better to start getting more quality candidates. So if that's something you guys are interested in, if you have a job that you've recently posted or you're about to post and you'd like me to take a look, just go ahead and send the URL down in the comments below, and I would love to take a look. Now, as everybody starts joining in, I'm going to give everyone a few minutes. I'd love to know where you're joining in from, of course, as always. I'm actually visiting some family. I'm not in Barcelona right now, but as always, I'm always curious where you guys will be joining in, because normally we have leaders and managers from all over the world. So I always love to know where you guys are at. Let me know in the comments below. Now, as I said, I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, before we get started, before we get some requests in, I'll show you guys a few that we've actually collected from some recent clients or from those that have sent requests in before this actual live. So I'm going to show you guys some examples that are going to be very helpful. So if you are looking to up your skills when it comes to actually job postings, HR, hiring, how to do this better when it comes to the actual posting process so you can get better quality candidates, stick around. I promise you guys, you're going to learn a ton from this. Now, in the meantime, I also want to mention that we do have a job board. So if you are somebody who is constantly hiring or hiring on occasion, but you are overwhelmed with too many applications, we do have a job board called remotivatejobs.com. And one of the most incredible perks that we actually have as part of our service, as part of the job posting, is that there is a recruiter on the back end doing all of the screening of all the candidates that apply for you, which is pretty incredible, meaning that you don't have to do any of the screenings. You get to see all the candidates that apply, but you're going to see the top 4 or 5 applicants and be able to send them directly to interviews with you. And then, like any job board, be able to process those candidates. But that initial process of actually distributing the job, collecting all the materials, reviewing like 200, 300, 400 applications, we actually take care of that for you. And so all you have to do is look at the top candidates, look at the top materials, and be able to pick out your favorites, interview your favorites, and select a top pick. And all of this is in 2 weeks. So our turnaround process is very, 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 very quick. So if that's something you guys are interested in, check out remotivatejobs.com. But as I said, it's been a couple minutes, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. As I mentioned, as I do these, if any of you guys come in and would like for me to take a look at your job description, one that you've already posted, maybe one you posted in the past and it hasn't worked, or one that you're planning to post and you want me to take a look, I'm here and I'm happy to take a look. But we're going to jump into some examples from recent submissions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump in and get started. All right. All right, first up is creative production project manager. So Couple things here that we're going to take a look at. So one of the things that came out with this employer is that yes, wonderful, they need a content strategist. That makes sense. Creative production project manager slash content strategist. By the way, for those of you, notice that they have decided to kind of do a 2-in-1 role, which is okay as long as there's a lot of crossover. It's remote, but one thing that is missing is they mentioned the UK, but it would be great to know if they are also open to other regions. So one of my recommendations is posting a region or in the location section, mentioning a little bit more in relation to locations they're open to. So maybe they just posted in Europe, but they can say that they're open to, they posted UK, but that they're open to Europe, or they're open to anybody on the European time zone. People from, let's say we've got Africa, different regions of Africa do match up with the European time zone. So it would be great to see a little bit more on the location requirements. About the role, they do mention the role, but something that they miss out is actually sharing about the company. So very often right now, a lot of in companies, they're not getting enough candidates. Now here we have over 100, but still I can bet you guys they're probably not getting enough qualified individuals because they're not really sharing much about the company itself. So it'd be good to have at least a paragraph saying, hey, this is what we do, this is what we believe in, this is our vision, and we're looking to hire this person because X, Y, and Z. So while it's great to have an about role, there's not much going on in relation to the actual company, which is something that gets candidates really excited so that you don't have to convince anybody to actually join your organization. Now, they do mention that what we will do, they talk about different initiatives. They're going to coordinate, designers, copywriters, manage updates. So all of this looks pretty straightforward, what you'll bring. But notice again, what we're missing is what does the company provide? So I don't see anything about the company. I don't see any benefits. Is this a contractor position, or, is there any days off? Again, this could be pretty big. If you're hiring for a senior role, like a managerial position, most times managers are looking for candidates that, most managers are looking for companies that actually are going to provide good quality benefits, whether that's time off, sick leave, things along those lines. So it would be great if this company could add in a bit more detail related to what are the growth opportunities with this position. So what's like the trajectory? What are the benefits of working with this organization? A little bit about the organization, maybe something related to the kind of values that they have or soft skills that they're looking for. So that could be really valuable to add. And this way, they're going to attract way, way, way more candidates and more quality candidates as well. All right, you guys. Very cool, Slovakia. Loving it, loving it. Let's keep moving forward. We're going to take a look at a second submission that we recently received. All right. Called the Creative Writing Expert. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, here we go. Creative Writing Expert. So with the Creative Writing Expert, there's a couple of things missing, but you guys probably already see this as well. So yes, I'm sure that when this role was posted, in the mind of whoever who's posting it is thinking, okay, we don't need to do a lot of detail here. We're just going to put some of the main things and that's it. But I will tell you, if you are looking for great creative writers, you're going to need a little bit more here than that. Now, it's great that they have added some terms. They've talked about compensation and contract terms. They did talk a little bit about the opportunity in terms of timeline and when does it begin, but there's not really much in terms of responsibilities, how many pieces of work they need to deliver, what kind of work, what kind of platforms would they be writing for. Same thing with qualifications. There's not much going on here. So are they looking for people who are going to be writing for on socials? Is this is this paid content? Is this organic content? Is this email content? Is this social? Is this, long article blog writing? So there's just really no way to know when we're talking of creative writing experts. This could mean a lot, and this is really, really, really vague. And of course, there's no information about the company either. I would go as far to say that this might even come across as scammy. So if you're hiring for a basic position or something that's like very straightforward, like a designer, a video editor, a writing expert, that's all great, but you really want to make sure that you are adding a little bit more context about who you are, a little bit more on the qualifications, because at the end of the day, they might be getting a lot of candidates. They might have like 1,000 people apply, but there's no way of knowing what kind of role, like what is this role? So this is a type of position that you'll see too many applications, but not the right applications, which creates a lot of work for the people who are posting this, right? What you're going to notice is that the recruiting manager is going to have to go through so many candidates to find what they're actually looking for, only because they did not include any sort of specificity in terms of the qualifications or responsibilities, in terms of the type of writing, in terms of the type of background. And that would have eliminated a lot of applicants. But because they didn't do this, unfortunately, there's not much for anyone to be able to, self eliminate themselves. There's no way for them to know if they're a good fit or not. So you're going to get a ton of applications and not much in terms of substance, because it's just too many, and it's wasting the candidate's time, it's wasting the company's time. This is a very, very poorly put together job description, creates a lot of extra work on both sides, honestly. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Yusib. All right, let's keep moving forward to our third example. And as I'm talking through this, you guys, just a reminder that if you have a job description that you have either posted recently or in the past, or you're going to post and you're interested to actually get it reviewed, happy to take a look as we're going through some of these submissions that I got previously. But if you want me to take a look at your job description, feel free to post it in the comments below, and I'd love to take a look. But let's keep moving forward. All right, the next one we're going to look at is a content strategist. All right, one second. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to get into a content strategist position. All right, so this is for a content strategist role, and there's a couple of things you might see here. So I'm going to show you guys the full job description. And you might be thinking, Anna, this is amazing, and they have all this information. But this is exactly the opposite of what our previous was. Now, what that causes, and I talk about this with candidates a lot as well, is the more information that you put, the harder it is in terms of readability, right? So all of a sudden, you might have a lot of information about who you are and what you're looking for, but because there's so much information, it's very hard to navigate in regards to like the main important points. There's a lot of words here, a lot of information, and it looks like they've just copy pasted it from chat. And that's why it's all kind of blended together. Now, I see the Istanbul time zone, and it would be great to know, instead of just putting the hours, or in addition to putting the hours, I'd also put in regions. So they did mention APAC, but it would be great if they kind of outlined that in the job description itself. The next bit is, again, we're missing a little bit about the company. What does the company do? Who is this company? There's just not much about this. And you guys, if you are posting any sort of job description, it's so important to make sure that you put a little bit about your company, your values. It could just be as simple as a small paragraph, but it goes a long way to really attract candidates and get them excited to work for you. Because if you're just putting up a post saying, hey, we're looking for a content strategist, really good candidates are not going to be jumping at the opportunity. So yes, you might get over 100 candidates applying and clicking, but they might not be the kind of candidates you're actually interested in. So cleaning something up here, cleaning that first section up, making sure that it's easy to read, having a quick paragraph about the company, and then a quick paragraph about the content strategist is going to go a long way. All right, next up is this part here. Now, again, keeping things concise. If you guys have noticed, there's a lot of responsibilities. The list is very long, and I don't believe that this is actually, it just seems like they have maybe shared with ChatGPT what the candidate is doing, and it just put it all into bullets. It would be great to kind of summarize this maybe into like 4, 5, 6, max 7 bullets, but this is overkill. It can come across as very intimidating. And as a content strategist, usually there's not this much to do. So it would be great to have this a bit kind of putting it a little bit more concisely so as not to overwhelm or scare candidates off. The other thing that could be important, and a lot of our clients actually have this, is sometimes they will over bloat a position with things that are not really meant for content strategists. For example, grow and nurture a community of investors through valuable insights, newsletters, and personalized communication. Now, it's usually not a content strategist's role to be nurturing and growing a community. Now, yes, they might be writing newsletters, writing insights, but personalized communication and growing a community are a very different type of position. So I would not expect that somebody at this salary, like $1,000 a month, who would be actually completing all of this as a content strategist. So that's another misalignment, is that they won't, most likely will not find somebody that can perform all of these responsibilities. And that is a huge misalignment in terms of what the role is and what they're going to be attracting in terms of the candidates. Now, there's a ton of requirements here: familiarity with finance in terminology, experience in institutional finance to be able to actually write content around that, email marketing, brief designers, which means that it is a bit of a higher level position, experience with content tools, strong portfolio with B2B finance related. And that's another thing, based on the area of expertise, based on this industry, you won't find somebody at the 1 to 3K mark within the APAC region. You most likely, for a strong content strategist that is B2B, that's going to be proficient in these areas, they're going to be at least 3K plus. So there's already another discrepancy. So as you guys are looking to make your job description and post it, make sure you're checking with chat, what is the type of salary typically for this region based on these requirements? Because a lot of times companies will post a salary based on what their budget has, but it doesn't really match the requirements. So they either have to lower the requirements based on the budget, because that's what they're realistically going to get, or they need to up their budget based on the requirements that they have. So that's just to give you guys some food for thought, because very often I see so many job descriptions where there is a huge misalignment in terms of what the company is asking for and what the salary expectations are. And again, there's just a lot of overkill. I would remove all of this. I would redo this into 2 small paragraphs related to the company and the role itself. I would definitely talk through to get this responsibility list down. And again, if you guys are not sure, you can always ask ChatGPT and say, hey, here are my list of responsibilities. Is this realistic for a content strategist? Or is there something here that is not going to be aligned, we can't find? Because, for example, growing and nurturing a community of investors is not typically something you'd find a content strategist will be doing, meaning that you either will be disappointed that their lack of abilities in that, or they might burn out pretty quickly doing something they're not really interested or aligned with. So just throwing that out there. List of requirements, all realistic, but again, as we come back to it, is not realistic for the salary being provided. I do appreciate that they mentioned KPIs, non-negotiables, but there's not much that the company is bringing to the table. So they do ask for a lot of requirements, but there's not much that they're actually saying, hey, here's what we're providing. Here are our values. Here's why you should work with us. And very often companies like this will get a lot of underqualified candidates or not qualified candidates at all, because they just are not providing enough context as to why this is a great company to work for. From a candidate's perspective, this looks like a role that has a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, very little compensation, probably a lot of work hours that are going to be involved, and there's not much on what they're actually going to be receiving from this on their end. They see all the non-negotiables, but not on any of the perks of this position, and the salary is definitely not a perk. All right, you guys. All right, so we're going to look at one more example today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a look at one more that's going to be super interesting to see, which is a sales consultant. Okay, so here is a sales consultant role, and this is something really good that they're doing. They are talking about the company. So from our previous examples, we didn't see much when it came to the actual, what is the company, you know, who are they, what are they doing, what's their background. So it's beautiful to see that they have this section here. It's a little bit overbloated, so I would dense that up a little bit, but I'd love to see that they have a company description, they have a role description. It's a remote role. Here's what you'll be responsible for. So I do appreciate that, though it is a bit bloated. I would get that down and make it a bit more dense. But other than that, there's not much else. We see qualifications that are very vague. Notice that there's no years of experience requirements or no tech stack requirements. So we see experience in software technology industry, but there's not much in terms of what are the tools are they using? What CRM are they using? communication, problem solving are not really qualifications. Those are more soft skills. With your qualification section, I would avoid using soft skill language and I would focus on years of experience, the type of clients, B2B, B2C, type of partnerships, if partnerships are involved. So something a bit more, because sales consulting could mean a lot of different things for a lot of different companies. And it would be great to see, what industry experience is required, what annual contract values requirements in terms of past experiences. So there's not much going on here in terms of qualifications, in terms of responsibilities. What would they be handling? Is this warm or cold leads that they're going to be working on when it comes to sales consulting? Are they going to be doing any sort of outreach, or is that all inbound and then just doing presentations? So there's very, very limited information here on what exactly is going to be going on. What is this? If this is a remote role, is this a W-2 or 1099? Is this a full-time position? There's not much here that gives substance. And again, when you see job descriptions like that, candidates get very, very uncomfortable thinking that this might, and it does kind of sound like a scam. And so many candidates, we occasionally even get this on our side saying, hey, is this actually a real role? Because there is a lot of scam online. There is a lot of positions out there that unfortunately are scammy, that are trying to attract you into a role that either doesn't exist or into a completely different role. And that is very, very disappointing. So it's very important that as you're building out your job description, you're clear about the company, you're clear about the role, what the goal of the position is, what are the actual requirements, and making sure you're staying specific on what's most important, avoiding soft skill language, because that's not really something that's going to give you value for the candidate or for you when it comes to the job description. You want to see that you have actual responsibilities listed out, and as well as some sort of benefits or growth opportunities, because it's very unclear what sort of benefits or what sort of structure is here. We don't see salary. Is this a salaried position or is it all commission based? There's just nothing here. And when companies post like this, candidates very often feel, and as you can see here, it's only recently posted a couple hours ago, but still candidates can assume very much so that this might be a scam, right? Because sales consultant, something feels like it's temporary or it's a contract, it might not be very well paid. It's unclear what kind of customers we're talking about, what kind of sales we're talking about. Because of how vague this job description is, it is coming across like it might be a scam. And we really want to avoid that when we're building our job descriptions. We want to keep them clear. We want to keep them attractive for our candidates, and that everything's on the table on what it is a company is looking for, what's the job, what are the requirements, all of that has to be very, very clear. And the more clear you get, the better quality you're going to get. All right, we do have a couple more minutes before we wrap up. We're going to do one last one from our submissions that I previously received. We're going to look at the head of sales role. All right, head of sales. Now, this one, they posted about a day ago, and there's only 19 applications, and that actually says a lot. When you see that there's so few applications, there's a couple of reasons here for it. Now, this one actually is on site, but that already limits the pool quite a bit. Malta is a very, very small country. So we have to think about the fact that if you are looking for a big role, if you're looking for a senior position and your requirements are very, very narrow, that means that you have very specific requirements in what you're looking for. And you guys will see that in just a minute. I will show you this in this job description. You can't limit yourself to a very small pool in one specific country. So if you're looking at like Malta, it's a very small pool to work with. And on top of that, I'm going to show you guys something. This particular role is looking for experience with US regulated sports betting. That is a very, very, very limited market and limited specialists who are going to be able to have experience 5 years or more. So the idea of Malta and this very, very narrow years experience in this, it's going to be a hard time filling this position. Now, something else to take a note of, they also want somebody that's not only going to be doing and kind of heading the account management team, but also leading and executing affiliate growth strategy end-to-end. So affiliate growth is completely different, and it's usually a different department. They also want partnerships and building partnerships and networks. Again, that's a little bit different than what sales is typically doing. There's usually a partnership manager. So you're going to see that this is both a implementer and execution, like an executor. So meaning they're looking for somebody that is an executive that's going to be leading, that's going to have a leadership and management position, but at the same time, building partnerships, doing end-to-end sales, working on affiliate growth strategies, and that is slightly different things. So that means this role is very particular in terms of industry, already limiting quite a bit, meaning the amount of leaders in that space is going to be quite limited. Two, they're looking for quite a few different responsibilities in terms of what they're going to be doing, which means, again, narrows it even more. And then on top, the cherry on top is that it's in Malta, which is an absolutely tiny country. So the possibility of somebody who has experience with the US market and fits these requirements and responsibilities is very, very, very unlikely for them to be able to fill this role. I do not foresee them actually being able to fill it. And again, there's not much in terms of what does the company provide other than the salary with a good bonus. There's really not much that they offer in terms of what are the benefits of working with this company, what are the growth opportunities. There's not much here. And there are a few inconsistency. We see head of sales, but then here we see head of commercial, and then we see head of sales again. So there does seem to be a bit of discrepancy in what the role actually is and what it entails, because there's a few different areas of expertise that they're looking for within just one position. And again, it's not coming across very attractive for a company, for a candidate, because there's just not much information on the company aside from this kind of first section, which is good that they have that. But other than that, they're not really saying, here's what we provide, here are our values, here's how big the team is. There's just not much else going on. All right, you guys, those are a couple of examples. I hope you found this super helpful. We're going to be wrapping up for today, but if you have a job description you'd like us to take a look at, feel free to join our next session. Or if you have a role where you are overwhelmed, you have way too many candidates applying, and there's just not enough time in the day to be able to process that many applications, you can check out remotivatejobs.com. We're going to have that link down in the comments below where you can post jobs, and our recruiter will actually process those candidates on your behalf, and you'll be able to hire within 2 weeks. So it's pretty amazing at the same cost of pretty much any job board. It's quite an amazing experience to be able to not have to worry about processing all the applications, and we take care of that whole process for you. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you guys very soon.